And when I begin the recording, what I do is go into a mode. I'm going to put something behind here because the only reason I'm putting this here, other than just me, is because it is on the front cover before I do it, because it distorts it a little bit. It's on the front cover of this book. This is original artwork. These are actors in costume that Michelle Bobot, and he works as a professor at UC Berkeley, worked for 35 years creating covers for publishers, for authors. And that's how the better covers are made. So this is original artwork. This is the first time people are seeing this on this planet, because it's not even in the Himalayan monasteries. This is what we look like as a being. It covers the spectrum of light, and it's spherical, just like the Earth that's behind Will. The reason planets and moons and suns and stars are round is because they're made in the image of their creators. In this case, all of us, including what we call Source or Prime Creator, and all the beings in between. We all come from the original source, which is far beyond the void most Buddhist monks say is the Supreme Being. It isn't. It's just a barrier between the lower worlds of time and space and the upper realities. First thing you need to know to have recovered in your awareness is what you really are that has never been one of these. Because none of you are now, nor have you ever been one of these. On Earth, it's so programmed, the atmosphere is so saturated with negative things people have done to people and to animals, to plants, to the planet. It goes back 65 million years to the time the major dinosaurs were deliberately made extinct here. Human beings never evolved on this planet in the first place. No race represented here evolved here. Human beings are not a new species. They're an ancient race. And they didn't evolve even in our galaxy originally. So when we go out and meet certain beings, we're going to be meeting human and humanoid and many other types of races that live on other worlds that people on Earth do not yet know exist. They wonder if there's life on other planets. Much of that is because of an agreement between several alien groups and people on Earth, governments in particular, as to why 70 years the lid was so tightly kept on this extraterrestrial issue. Not only for technological reasons, but for competitive ego reasons that drive most leaders in most countries who are trying to keep their populations calm, basic economies sound, and they're failing all over the place because the leaders of this world, including religious leaders, are making decisions based on subconscious influences, fear influences they don't even know they have. And when they're made from fear, the only repercussion that can come back in the law of space-time in the universe, every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. Feelings and thoughts also go out in microvoltages and affect the omnipresent hue, or the first sound that fills the atmosphere of Earth, fills that black space you can see behind Will. You see in a Hubble telescope image, it looks black because human eyes can't see into a higher frequency. Human eyes on Earth only have two-stranded DNA. Other races that are human from the stars more evolved have 4. The Say race had 12. And we get our DNA from them originally. A human race that was extremely tall compared to us, 18 to 25 feet tall. They don't normally come to Earth, and in its past, some skeletons have been found 25 feet tall human by archaeologists, and then they're whisked away in black ops projects and classified and shut down. They know there have been giant skeletons found here that are millions of years old, which would throw all the religious doctrines out in the ocean compared to where we originated. If people are looking for the Garden of Eden, they're not going to find it on this planet. Didn't originate here. So when I take you on these journeys before we start, because this becomes telepathic, and what I mean by telepathic is we're all telepathic. Every one of us, even if we can't access it consciously, we are. A very good example I use often to describe this is you're a young man, about 20, looking at a beautiful woman across the street. And he looks at her and says, "Boy, isn't she pretty?" She turns around and smiles at him. How did she know? How did she know to turn around? That's telepathy. We call it intuition on Earth because it's unconscious. but it's still going on. I think probably it's a good thing that people don't have conscious access to that on Earth the way they are, because they would just destroy each other through what would be revealed their thinking. And so it's better until people wake up their higher faculties to keep the conscious use of telepathy in the hue itself. This means that when we're starting into this communication on this journey, this is telepathic. I'm not alone in this. I don't do this by myself. There are beings from other worlds who do this work with me. It took me decades to learn how to do what I do, and decades to write the books, and then I had to be a publisher just to publish them. It was a journey I don't even talk about, because I'm not here to talk about how I got here. I'm here to be of benefit to you. And that's really why I do this stuff. Because there's an energy moving through the multidimensional creation out in space there. It's moving through our solar system even now. In that thing people call divine spirit, which is really, it doesn't call itself that. It's an omnipresent living power, one single power. It is all out there in space, and all the little planets and galaxies and worlds create electromagnetic fields, toroidal fields, zero-point energy fields, as some advanced scientists on Earth call it. The energy of the universe is not visible to human eyes on Earth. It appears black to them, but it isn't really black at all. It's actually a white golden light, and it's not made of nuclear material. It's not made of atoms. There's no DNA in it. It's conscious, but it is not an individual like we are. It is a living presence. It's not a single being. We come and are made from and are comprised of the same energy as that space energy out there. And that goes all the way up through all the dimensions back to Source itself. So we actually come from the Source originally. We were there, all of us, before the lower worlds of time and space were even made. So in a sense, the condition of Earth and the lower dimensions that run basically on good and bad, evil and good and all that, is a creation we all thought was pretty hip, slick, and cool at the time that it would work. But it backfired in that it worked so well. Most beings in the lower dimensions of time and space, not just the physical universe, astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes, these are different heavens, if you will. They're not all nice and heavenly places. To get to such places as people want in their heart to remember, you have to go above the void, because the void is a pure form of the hue that creates a barrier between the lower worlds of the experiment of time and space and the upper worlds, which are pure positive. That means there's no opposites there, no time and space, no planets, no moons, no suns, no stars, because they're not needed. There's no negative nature there. Sat Nam dwells in the first plane above the void, and we'll be going there. Sat just means true, name, Nam, name. Basically, am I right there, Mooney? Basically. Kind of true name, right? It's, okay. Most people that know of this being don't really have access to meet with him. They can pray to it or worship him like a supreme being, which he does not like. He will back away from you if you try that. They're not looking for people to come back home putting these people on a pedestal and worship them. They'll back away from you. Any real master will back away from you if you try that. So it isn't like people think they're taught on Earth to worship something they'll never touch and don't think they're advanced enough to ever experience. Faith and belief should lead to direct experience and knowing. When I plug into the hue to start these journeys, I become much more intelligent and brilliant than I am normally. Because I'm plugging into the one power itself. And all the beings that know how to do that. So we have the benefit of very masterful beings like Ambassador Turellian, who is an ambassador not to Earth, but to the Galactic Alliance. The Galactic Alliance, and we're going to go to Zetranami 1 in this journey. That's located near the Galactic Core. And we're going to visit with the Galactic Alliance Council. 5,000 members from all kinds of races, coming from 450 million plus spacefaring world systems. And they are situated in 144 parallel dimensions of the physical universe. There's layers, there's Earths upon Earths upon Earths before you even get to the astral plane. It's just big. The Atma that you are can comprehend and understand this stuff. The body you grew up on Earth and the brain, and it isn't even taught anywhere, so how can you know it? When we imagine something like going to the beach or going to the airport, it is not the brain and personality you grew up with that does any of that, because the brain has no mechanism in it. There are no brain cells on one side of the brain that is a motion picture camera that can focus images on the other side of the brain. That's not its purpose. When you imagine, you are this spherical being, although perhaps unconscious of it now, running that imagination through the body. You look out your eyes and you think it's coming from here. It's not. So everybody on Earth, from the most crude person to a very fine, evolved person, uses the imagination unconsciously. Writers do it all the time. They sit down to write a story like Star Wars, and they go into a trance. They get so focused on it, they're starting to write about the past time track they were involved in, and they make up these stories that they could never have gotten from any educational system on this planet. It was never in their head. And then they take credit for it and say, I wrote this story, it's my Star Wars. That's okay. But the stories took place in the way they write about them somewhere else, either long ago or currently out in space. We are beings who are capable of looking into the multidimensional creation through daydreaming, simple as daydreaming. People on Earth daydream all the time. Everybody knows how to do it. It's almost natural. You know how to daydream. You're going to go on a camping trip. You know how to visualize it before you get there. But when we're trained to learn to look outside of Earth into the greater God, into the greater multidimensional creation where most of it is, then we start to play among the stars. We're supposed to be able to do that while running a body on this planet. People aren't doing that. We're supposed to be caretakers and custodians of the worlds under our care. People are not doing that on Earth either. And they think it's normal. It's not. Earth is not a normal human planet yet. It's not even close. For it to be normal, people would have to know what they are that isn't one of these, and they'd know how to move around the universe and mix it up with masterful beings and get taught and move very quickly in their evolution. There's only one thing in people on Earth, because they were manipulated, that keeps them from remembering, and that's fear. Fear of the present and future will lock you into this planet every time. This is not conscious fear, this is subconscious, meaning we have a subconscious mind that was artificially created and imposed on us. Because you can put things in the subconscious that you're not aware of, and then you can control people. Only tyrants work this way. Many of the gods people pray to in religions today on Earth are tyrants, and they're not interested in setting anyone free. Those beings who reside in the planes below the void are also going through a change right now, but they never went through before. So that if we want to fix the lower worlds of time and space, we have to be co-creatively involved in that, because we're like gods clothed in rags. We're literally part of the source with the same faculties on a smaller scale, like a pure drop of golden white light with a structure, layers, higher faculties. And we float in this other energy, just like that planet Earth floats in space. The way this works, the planet Earth creates what's called, the hue in it running through it, creates an electromagnetic field. It comes out the South Pole, goes in the North Pole. It's very big, surrounds the entire planet. It allows it to not only create a gravitational field, but float in this other energy. A galaxy like the Milky Way galaxy has the same toroidal field around it. So it can float in this other energy, stable with other things and other galaxies. Individual atmas like us, like this, also have that field around us, just like the Earth does. It is the way the one power moves through our being so that we can float in that energy and travel in it. That energy behind, and it's black behind Earth, is not nuclear or atomic in nature. There's no molecules in it. In the CERN Super Collider in CERN, Switzerland, where they have this huge cyclotron, I guess they crash particles together at near the speed of light, and then they measure, they can actually see when these particles collide, energy behind the universe that doesn't obey the laws of physics, that's behind matter. They don't know what it is or how to work with it, so they call it the God particle. That was coined by them. It's really the energy of the universe. The omnipresent power has a sound that it makes in the physical universe. I think in the Bible it's a word is with God and the word was God and all that stuff, but it's missing from those books because it isn't the physical word, it's the sound. It's not in written words. So it comes from the first half of the word human, hidden in plain sight. And all that it does, it was set up before the lower worlds of time and space were built. It's a way we connect back to source. When you cross paths with the you, say in this lifetime, you're very fortunate because you have done something to find this work. All I did was make it available on the planet. But you found it. Each one of you found it. This makes you pretty special because despite what was done to you, there's a certain courage that emanates through us as beings that overrides all negative things. And when we start to cross paths with the you, the source itself, that was normally just supporting whatever you do good and bad, trapping yourself or not, it starts to take a personal interest in us. It begins to become a kind of a guide and teacher through many wonderful beings to help us return back home, which we should have done billions of years ago, to be honest. We were supposed to be returning all the time. People got lost in the lower phenomena of lower worlds and bodies and marriages and kids and over enough period of time. Let's say, give you an example, 1 billion years ago, one of you blew up a world by accident. Just out of naivety, you didn't know what you're doing. You misused some energy. First thing a good being does is say, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to bury that ability. I'm going to cover it up. First mistake we make. Because once that ability is covered up, this is before implantation, then we have less capability to make right discrimination choices in the next set of circumstances that cross our path. You extrapolate that over millions of years, and you end up one way or another on a planet like Earth with little or no memory. This has to be reversed. There's no getting around this one. You come to be on Earth, you're as far down the scale of creation as you can get. And there is only one direction to go from here. That's onward and upward. And that's how we start these journeys. I want to see if this will work for all of you. I want to put this here, if it works for you, because it comes from one of the books that I've published in this world, and it shows you what you are. Kind of a reminder that if this is what's going on the journey. The bodies are going to be left behind in the trance state we call sleep, because you're all masters at this. You're hundreds of billions of years old in terms of space and time. And knowing how to do this, leave your body and go on journeys, is not new to any one of you at all. But once you get on Earth, you forget it ever. You're not trained from birth to know how to work with any of these hard factors, so they just stay off. They just stay dormant. They're still there. They're not destroyed. There is only one thing subconsciously that must be put aside by your own free will, because you choose not to focus on it when your nervous system reacts to something and you start getting afraid of the present and future. If you focus on it, which is the habit of most people, then you're feeding energy to the primary implant to turn it on and run you. It gets its energy from you. Pretty diabolical. The primary implant contains death and torture and how you ended up on this planet. You didn't come here volunteering with some god or an archangel to come here and be dumber than a brick and be born in a body and forget everything because you were told that would make you perfect one day and you'll get it right if you don't know anything. Problem is, if you don't know anything that you're supposed to have as wisdom, how can you make better decisions when you're living on earth? Well, you can't. So everybody knows this. I'm sharing it with you because you already know it. Or you already did know it, or you're remembering it now. But it's not something I'm giving to you that you didn't have. Everybody understands this, right? You already have it. Doesn't mean it's conscious, but it can be. So the journeys become important because we go in direct experience on these journeys, and that rubs off on us. I could tell you all the information about implants and other planets and other dimensions and portals between different dimensions and the higher worlds and how they work, but it's better to show you. If I just give you information, it won't do you a damn bit of good. People want to be entertained. They want to have enlightenment dropped in their lap without doing anything to acquire it, without proving to the source that you're trustworthy to have it. We cannot have the faculties awakened in us that allow us to co-create with primordial energy unless we can be trusted with it. Part of what happens on these journeys is certain protection is provided in the hue. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. You'll experience it for yourself. A certain protection comes along with reconnecting with the hue that you've forgotten for billions of years. It allows you to continue to unfold and finally master fear and put it aside with the assistance of many other beings not from Earth, because we can't do it ourselves. People are not awake enough on Earth to correct any of this on their own. Some of you have actually gone to the point of trying to look into the primary implant and get free. And then when you do that, you get snapped right back into it. And it shuts down. You go in a different direction. And it's admirable to think that we can remove these things on our own. But the fact is, the greater God is not on Earth. The greater presence of evolved beings is not on this planet. The most evolved master teachers have never stood foot on the planet Earth. No matter what you've seen in the history, as short as it is that you're told in school. So there have been civilizations on planet Earth much higher than ours that have come and gone in 65 million years. There has been a nuclear war on this planet long ago, millions of years ago. It wouldn't be the first time if they blew this place up again. The thing about it is, the planet survives, the people don't. The planet's fine. They'll just shake it off. So we don't want that because it wastes a lot of time and energy and lifetimes. And you have to seek another body and you go through this whole thing. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to have the world and its people make decisions on fear and blow the place up. This is just common sense. This preliminary stuff is part of the journey. It's important because it helps prepare you for it. I'm not just giving you information. This is telepathic. It's not psychic. It doesn't work with the positive and negative energies at all. It works with the pure energy behind and supporting all that. That's what we're plugging into. It's not new to any of you in that you once knew it well, and I know you've all been struggling to get back to it one way or another. So consider that what you've done so far is co-created a way back. And your own individuality is part of creating where we go and what we do on this journey. The first thing that happens is a couple is assigned to each of you. These are human couples in this case, for your benefit. Or humanoid, or very close to what you would call human. And there look to be about 36, man and a woman, couples generally, that are way, way far outside of the understanding of people on Earth. By the time they're 10 on their worlds, they have equivalent of 10 PhDs. By the time they're grown up, they know how to pilot any kind of ship. They're biologists, botanists, astrophysicists, interdimensional wormhole technicians. anti-gravitic technicians, or people that build and have the mechanical structure of designing new craft and new domes and all kinds of stuff. But they grow up on world systems where money's not used because it's illegal. They grow up on world systems where their motivation for growing up is to contribute new ways of doing things, not just to their planet, but to the entire Galactic Alliance organization of world systems. Moving in a craft, a Galactic Alliance scout craft can move between dimensions, not astral, but in parallel dimensions. So when I say Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, it is comprised of world systems on these different layers. They can move between them. The technology to go through interdimensional doorways and do this is easy stuff for them, like riding a bus. Big stuff for people on Earth that have long since forgotten all about this. But I can tell you that each one of you knew how to pilot an anti-gravitic scout class craft in the Galactic Alliance long ago. It was a piece of cake for you. It's not new. If I said, okay, Will, build me an anti-gravitic craft in your garage, could you do it? But you know how, just not awake yet. It's already earned. Most of this stuff we call mastery is not something we acquire in the future. That's an illusion. It's something we lost and need to get back first. Fear needs to go to bring that back to the surface of the consciousness you're running on this planet. It's a challenge. It's tough. Everything is set against you doing it. The people, the government, the religions, the entire atmosphere itself is negative. The oceans on Earth, on a normal planet, oceans glow a foot above the waves. On other world systems, the waves are not violent. There are no polar ice caps. In those other planets out there that revolve around binary and trinary 2 and 3 sun systems, which is most of the suns in our galaxy. Scientists on Earth know this today. They are binary or trinary. The closest sun to us, what is it called? Alpha Centauri, Beta, Beta 1 and 2, is a binary system. Perhaps 3, they don't know yet. So there's really 2 suns, a big one and a smaller one, and planets revolving around it. The effect that has in the hue out there has a different effect on human DNA and other types of races. So they're much more highly evolved. They don't have the problems we have on Earth because people on Earth have a dead, broken moon orbiting the planet. It does not revolve on its axis at all. It always shows us the same face as it goes around, which is physically impossible because the gravity of the Earth and other planets and the sun would have it moving somehow. But something happened that made it absolutely stationary. As it moves around the planet, it never turns at all. If it had an atmosphere and turned on its axis, the tides, we call it, would be influenced. The energy of the hue moving through that moon to this planet, into the water vapor in the oceans and atmosphere, would bring about a glowing energy in water on that planet. And that energy comes right from source, and we wouldn't have any of these problems at all. Earth's oceans are depleted. The water systems do not glow. There's more hue around the equator, which is why people are drawn to Hawaii and stuff, because they feel a little bit more charged there. It's not so depleted that life doesn't exist here, but it's so depleted that life is very unconscious here. So on these other worlds we go to, when I show you an ocean there, it's glowing. On normal worlds, they're charged. The technology, the ability, the beings to recharge a planet like Earth and charge its oceans exists. It's ancient. It's not new. But the people on Earth have to change enough to at least invite it in. The people I work with are not tyrants. They're not going to let us blow ourselves up, that's certain. They're not going to force their way on everyone. They want enough people to come up to where they can be boots on the ground and help transform this planet. And not just Earth, the lower dimensions of time and space as well. It's kind of what our more advanced mission or purpose is all about. We are meant to be conscious, trustworthy co-creators with the source behind all life. It has never required that we worship it, by the way. It only requires that we know it directly and respect it and each other and all life. That is required. So if we're gonna go out and play in the universe, we have to know the life that's there and respect it. We can't have Russia, the United States, and China going out there with their big egos and I'm going to beat the U.S. and we're going to get the resources of that world and that world. We're going to be the dump. No, they're never going to be allowed to go outside of the solar system the way we are. That's already covered. There will be no space future for this planet the way people are now, because space is, in fact, already occupied by far more advanced races. And they're not going to tolerate that nonsense. So our solar system was quarantined, not by people on Earth. It was done for two reasons: to keep us from destroying ourselves. The polar flips of the planet, which created a golden age to iron age and back again, is permanently over now. That was stopped a few years ago. The poles were starting to tip. It was past 100,000 years. And then suddenly one day they went back to where they were in the 1500s. That was done by special kind of beings, so that this world has a chance to evolve like other worlds do. It's never had that. Earth is a very unusual animal in the universe because its poles have been flipping regularly every 100,000 years. Continents rise, ones in the oceans, land rises up. It's a violent affair. It takes place in 24 hours. It is not a long ice age process. Very violent. And unless you can get off the planet, sayonara, you're done. So the last time that happened, Lemuria, which people have heard about, and a colony continent 100,000 years ago they called Atla, which became Atlantis later, were destroyed. New land masses took their place, and that's what you're on today. This cycle of events on this earth has happened many times, but in this work, you'll find out that that has permanently been stopped. The little reptilians that were tyrants and spacefaring race that misused energy to implant people were very few that ever were in secret bases underground on this planet. The little grays that worked for them, some of them, not all, went around and abducted people and did DNA tests on them and probed them and did all kinds of weird stuff, and then wiped their memory and put them back in their bodies for the ones who lived. That was stopped over 25 years ago on this planet. And the people in the UFO and extraterrestrial communities do not know yet. They're working 25 years behind the times. They aren't on this planet anymore. There are no reptilians with Nazis in Antarctica. That's fear peddling. It has no constructive benefit to anyone to say that to anyone. What can you get that's good from that? Can anybody think of anything good that could come from that? I'm not against any of these people. They're people that started out trying to do good. And then this primary implant kicks in, and pretty soon they're peddling fear along with their smiling faces. The classified community in this country and other countries are not worried about people in the UFO community. They're not a threat. Dr. Stephen Greer and some of these other people that are trying to do good work, they're not threats to anyone because they don't work together. They're already divided and conquered, so to speak. There's no threat there. Threats come in power in numbers. There's no numbers there. So the transformation, unexpected transformation of a planet literally has to come from outside this world, because the people living on it no longer have the will or ability to change anything. They're the effect of almost everything. So if we want to be part of the constructive good in helping this transformation come about, we have to know who we are, what we look like. I've got a soul. What does that mean? I'm a body. I think I'm a body, and I got a soul maybe in my back pocket. Maybe I've stuffed it in my shirt or put it in my closet. They don't know what it is. They should be fully aware of this. That's what self-realization means, by the way. You're aware of what that is, not this. God realization has to do with your relationship co-creatively with the source as that. Because when we go into the ocean of sound and light, when we go into the source or prime creator, it's many dimensions above Satnam's realm. It's far above the void. So when we step into it, we're actually returning home. Maybe for the first time in billions of years. And then it speaks to us. It is a presence that can speak to you, but it is not an individual being on a throne somewhere. It is a nexus of all atmas in the entire multidimensional creation that are telepathically linked to this one big prime creator. And it is intelligent in that it has a focus like a being. You can speak with it. But understand, it is not an individual. We are. And we're supposed to collectively come back to that and contribute to it. If we want to change the lower worlds of time and space from the hellish experiment of good and evil, which we know doesn't work, then we have to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So that's the purpose for the journeys. The way we go on these journeys is pretty simple. When you put your body to sleep at night, you close your eyes, and wham, boom, zang, zingo, your body goes to sleep. You control it through the pineal gland, the center of the brain. It means that you're instructing it to produce serotonin, which makes melatonin, which puts the body on automatic while you're gone. Every single night. And people on Earth have little memory of what they do that they bring back to the waking up of the body in the morning, because they're not trained to use those faculties on this planet growing up anywhere. As a matter of fact, I don't know of any guru that's present, that's popular on Earth right now, from India or anywhere else, that talks about taking people above the void. Buddhists think the void is the realm of the Supreme Being. I've guided 3 Buddhist monks beyond that void so far, because they just don't know that there's more. It's important to remember we are capable of doing this as that, not as this. Because this brain doesn't have the capacity to hold billions of lives in memory in every detail, or how to move around the universe. That's stored in one of those teardrops, these higher faculties and these layers in the soul, or the atma that we are. And it's that that needs to awaken from a deep amnesia. So when you put the body to sleep at night, you leave it every night. It takes some work, some discipline, for an individual to begin to bring back what they're doing at night, because that's where enlightenment is. And we have to do that. So the best way to start this is to get guided, and not by me alone, on these journeys into direct experience. Fair enough? That's what they're for. If I didn't respect each one of you, we couldn't do this, because this isn't about my ego. When we go above the void and plug into the pure energy we are, we always have been, you can't bring ego there. It is not allowed to go into the void that separates the upper worlds from the lower worlds of time and space. You can't bring it there. We can only bring the pure us that's already pure. We're already perfect. You can't make that better a million years from now. It's always the same. But it can become much more capable in mastery of working with a power far beyond itself for the benefit of all life. Now, this is something that is natural and normal for each one of us, to do this for the benefit of all life. That's how we're supposed to grow up. That is not how people on Earth are raised. And we all know it. There are not people in spaceships coming here to visit us for our benefit that carry steaks and chicken in their freezers to eat along the way, for instance. It's ludicrous. They don't do that. They don't live like people on Earth at all. They live thousands of years. The telomeres on their DNA do not shrink when cells divide. This is old science, not new. Antigravitic propulsion, as they term it, is not new. For Earth people, maybe, yeah. But not out there among the stars, it isn't. So as Atmas, we float and move and have our being You're creating an electromagnetic field around your being right now and around the body as well on Earth. People call it the aura and they see little colors near the surface. That's not the actual aura. The aura is a big field of energy around the body, an electromagnetic field. It's in that field where implants are. On these journeys, implants are removed on certain implant removal journeys from there, because they distort how you perceive the universe when you daydream into it, and fear comes up and grounds you right back into this earth. That's how that works. So those are gone first. The primary implant is much more insidious in that it's designed to stop your body working if you try to get into it on your own. Some of you have experienced coming close to that. You have to be surrounded by beings who have no subconscious mind, have the technology and the understanding to work with getting you to see this stuff safely. They actually do something to your body to keep it from being harmed. That cannot be done in Earth's atmosphere. It has to be done out in space, outside of Earth's atmosphere, in the omnipresent hue. When I'm doing that, a doorway is opening in the pineal gland. It's connected to the prime source itself because it was set up that way in the beginning. So you can't go through the you and connect anything negative. That's quite impossible. And when we're going into the hue out in space, no negative beings, ships, or technologies can even approach us. They can't get anywhere near it. Because the prime energy is master of all things in the lower worlds. We come from that prime energy. So literally we are masters over all negative things. We're supposed to be. But if we've been manipulated to doubt and forget this, then we're in trouble. This kind of forgetfulness began billions of years ago, before there was even a misuse of science to implant people, to create subconscious minds in them. What was done to you that put you here wasn't done to you on Earth. It was done before you were compelled to be born here with no memory. Children on most normal planets grow up by the time 6 months they have an adult body. They do not grow up like people on Earth. They don't spend 20 years raising children and going through this whole process. It's because of how certain genomes on the DNA have been shut off or tampered with. There's over 1 billion genomes that make up the DNA, twin-stranded, of humans on Earth. They've been mapped out in supercomputers. That's history. They know their switches, but they don't know how to work them. If they knew the switch for the telomere, they could turn it on and telomeres would not shrink and you would not age. It would be a disaster for 8 billion overpopulated planet Earth if everybody didn't age the way they are. They have to first wake up to what they are and work in harmony with that source, because on normal worlds, more than 500 million people per planet is not allowed. So when Earth goes through a transformation, a good percentage, 3/4 of the population more, will volunteer to go to worlds that are being prepared for them in those higher parallel dimensions, other Earths. That's already a done deal. For some people, this is just a really natural kind of science. I'm shutting this off, forgot to do it. There we go. And it's as common as getting up and breathing to them. These are your fellow beings. You came from them. So recovering this knowingness about yourself is a natural process. Anything that's contrary to you becoming who you really are will drop away naturally. Never try to force it. It should drop away naturally. You should just, if you're doing something wrong, you lose the desire for this, or I don't know. I don't personally consume animals or seafood, but that is not something I recommend any of you try unless you're already doing it. And if you do go in that direction, you're going to find at some point it just goes away. because what you really are doesn't need to derive nutrients or energy from those substances. In fact, we really don't. It's kind of an illusion. Advanced humans have an organ in their system that takes food for pleasure and turns it into light and distributes to the body. There isn't this whole elimination thing. There are worlds with people like us that are like us on Earth, but most of them out there do not. Let's just put, I don't want to get into this too much except to state that Earth is in a very negative state because of what people do to each other and to animals, to the ecology, and to everything else. Earth's atmosphere is depleted of the hue. It should glow. The water vapor in the atmosphere, H2O, is a secret to it. Two gases become a liquid. The two first atoms in the whole universe combine, and it can store a great deal of the hue, the omnipresent power, in water. So when I say normal, water has the potential, H2O, of storing multidimensional levels of information. And it can act like a telepathic medium. Some shamans on Earth know how to use it to communicate with beings in other worlds where they came from. Water is very special. For just Professor Gerald Pollack in Washington State University, who I've met, has proven that water has these other multidimensional capabilities. He's actually proven it scientifically, which is a great inroad for this planet. It's a beginning. Imagine someone, if you will, you're grateful they're in your life, someone you respect. It could be a person, place, or thing, something you have fondness for, but when you close your eyes and visualize it, it makes you smile inside. That's important. Whatever, it could be your kid, it could be your pet, a waterfall, a hummingbird, something that makes you smile. So as we progress into this journey, your body will naturally start to go in the trance state we call sleep. You put it there every night, so this is not difficult. And for you, Dominique, if you start to close your eyes, here's what happens. When you close your outer eyes, it shuts off that part of the brain. It opens a doorway so that there's a link created between the brain and the pineal gland that you control the body through and you hovering above it. And through this guided journey, through my voice and through the beings that work with me telepathically, it begins to make you aware. When the body goes to sleep, you stay conscious, if you choose to. You do it every night anyway, so the difference is we're doing this in a conscious way. There's a man and a woman standing behind each one of you. They are not in physical bodies. It is not psychic. They are projections of energy from the white core of the Atma, the spherical being they are. They are from other world systems. They are stationed in craft in our solar system now. They put a couple aboard a ship, 4 couples generally on a scout class vehicle, will sit in the back of a lounge and leave their bodies in order to join us to remove implants or to go on the journey to help keep any subconscious negative things you have turned off. So when you go on the journey, you can gain the most benefit from it. It's a service they provide. They look to be about 36 years old, man and woman, but perfectly handsome, perfectly beautiful. Because it's a prototype of what they show each other, how we show ourselves to each other as a projection from the Atma. It has a human-looking form. It is from this form that human forms and other races were made. But this form is pure energy. There's no DNA in it. Now imagine, which is just daydreaming, you're looking down at your body from the ceiling where you live. And you realize there's a spherical being to your right and left hovering beside you, and you're a spherical being. And then you realize you're showing them a body. If you're a man, it's about 36, perfectly handsome. If it's a woman, flawlessly beautiful, 36, young adult, but ageless looking. Well dressed, elegant like a swan. This is how and who and what we really are. When your implants are turned off as they are now, if any of you have secondary implants removed, that's good. But the primary implant remains, even in me. That cannot be removed at this time. When you know what's in the primary implant that killed you and put you here, it becomes a memory. And it no longer affects your decision making the same way. After that's done, then we still have the difficult challenge of awakening thousands of higher faculties that we've turned off or shut down over billions of years in order to recover who we are and why we came into the lower worlds in the first place. When that happens, we begin to be conscious, trustworthy co-creators with the source, as we're meant to be. Responsibilities are not given up, children are not thrown away, husbands and wives don't have to divorce or any of that. Because the way this works, it provides a more practical life on earth while you're unfolding this process. It isn't like people think. The only challenging part of it is when we hold on to fear out of habit. It's a bad habit to look at fear of the present and future, separate from implant influences. So that kind of a habit has to be given up permanently. These journeys help and benefit us to do that. So you're hovering near the ceiling looking at your own body. It's easy. You just picture it. These beings beside you point upward. You hear a sound. The sound is like a humming, almost like a rumbling of thunder without lightning, not scary. It's the sound the physical universe makes from the hue that powers it. If you go into the astral plane where all emotion comes from, you have a life you're running there. The sound that powers those dimensions sounds like gentle crashing ocean on a beach, or of a water sound. And you find yourself at 10,000 feet or 10,000 meters in the atmosphere, wherever you live, day or night. Everything's lit up around you, and you can look right down through the roof where you live and see you're hovering there with these couples still near the ceiling, looking at your body. You're in both places simultaneously because the Atma, the spherical being, is multidimensional capable. You're already running 5 bodies right now you've been made to forget. You have the one on Earth. You have one in the astral plane, lives thousands of years, has greater abilities, still a trap. One in the causal plane, one in the mental plane, one in the etheric plane, which is a transparent body and almost no negativity left in it. And then there's the void, and it is a barrier. And then there's the upper realities where we came from. Then we find ourselves in outer space, looking at the Earth in the distance. It has polar ice caps, blue oceans, land masses, a barren, broken moon that does not turn on its axis as it revolves around the planet. This affects the water in our bodies and the water in the earth in a way that becomes, say, on a full moon. Some people get very uplifted by it. Other people become psychotic and negative because it's not functioning properly. So it's one of the things that has to be repaired or fixed, the moon that surrounds Earth, and that has been prepared. And we'll go visit that place on our return journey, where that's being done. In space, you find us, all of us as a group, standing in a circle with space between us around Ambassador Turelian. Ambassador Turelian appears to be a human, like a Greek god, about 18 feet tall. He's showing you the form that he had a long time ago, and it looks human. He has long, slightly curvy hair, blonde to his shoulders, big blue eyes, slightly bigger than an Earth human, slightly pointed ears, with a white gown on above his bare ankles. He's just standing there. He has his fists closed with his thumbs up, and there's a white golden light around his fists. It's a little brighter than the white golden light in space around us. Now, he's brought that energy here from above the void, so that we're being connected into an energy of the hue that comes from beyond the void. And we're going to ride that energy back to that source, because that's how we do it. Terrelli and the Sayres race were human. They immortalized their bodies over 1 billion Earth years ago. They didn't originate in the Milky Way. They did this by taking their 12-stranded DNA, the most advanced physical race I think that's ever existed, and they broke that down and stored it in one of the teardrops near the golden layer, near the white core of their being. You all have these same faculties. So when he shows you this form out here in space, he's simply drawing on the hue around him, and he manifests this form made of energy so you can see it, have something to relate to other than a sphere. This is how he reveals himself to us. There are other beings here. The man and woman I described earlier, Chantal and Tonatiuh, are standing to each side of Dominique. I got on Zoom earlier and I mentioned to her that they would be standing beside her. Dantiel and Tonatiuh are standing behind Mooney. There are other men and women equally experienced standing behind each one of you. All they're doing is keeping your primary implant off, so you can come out here and have some fun and go on this adventure. In the circle of beings, there are other master teachers. One is Opelum. He's standing in this circle of beings opposite Earth. He has pale blue skin, slightly pointed ears, jet black hair to his shoulders, emerald green eyes, about 40 in appearance. He's wearing a single form-fitting uniform made of a blue-gray fabric that they step into and it wraps around your body. On the right chest area is a silver galaxy. It looks silver. It's kind of white, but it looks silverish. And above the apex of the galaxy is a 4-sided, golden-sided pyramid with a quartz crown, and above it 3 cobalt blue stars in triangular formation. That's a galactic alliance symbol. This being is also a master teacher. The body he's showing you, he actually has on a planet called Oceania on the other side of the galaxy. The body he's immortalized, as some master teachers have done, was immortalized in a different way. The telomere on their 4-stranded DNA was fixed so that it does not shrink when the cells divide. Barring accident and injury, you don't age at all. This body form he's showing you on planet Oceania is over 500,000 years old, unaged. This is the kind of thing that beings can do outside of Earth. And it's not new. As phenomenal as it seems, it's not new. On the other side of this circle of beings, standing in this circle in space, near Earth, is a person called Ramu. It helps if you keep your eyes closed, because then you can see this stuff. Physical eyes can't see it. It'll just ground you right back into the Earth. Open them up, you're back on Earth. Close them, you're back there. It takes a little discipline, but it's the way it works. And you're the master. You're in control of this. It's up to you, not me. And he is a maroon-colored robe on, short-cropped, curly black hair and beard, swarthy skin, dark brown, coal-black eyes, a simple rope for a belt, sandals. He's holding a 6-foot-tall crystal staff made of quartz, glowing with a golden light. It has on top of it the symbol called the Ankh, which is a symbol in ancient Egypt for eternal life. Cross with an upward pointing oval hole in it. And it's a device, and he uses it as part of a teaching tool with 2 other crystals that fit into the eye of that Ankh. when a person's ready to be transported to the realm of the Silent One or Prime Creator to become a master teacher in their own right. So he carries it with him as a symbol, a trademark. The physical body you're seeing that looks physical is not. The body he has that's physical is on Earth in a city called Agam Des. It is located in a Himalayan mountain area on the Earth that is 3 parallel dimensions up from the one you know of as Earth. And such beings can move between them. This guy could walk down the street in a suit and you wouldn't even know he was there. Or you just think he was a guy in a suit. This is easy stuff. People from the Galactic Alliance that mix it up in our societies on Earth and walk around have the ability to mask their presence so that you won't know they're there unless they want you to know it. It's a safety precaution. They're very highly trained. Earth is one of the most dangerous places any being can come to from the Galactic Alliance. So they're very well trained before they step foot on this planet. This is not new to any of you either. Hovering above Master, he is a Master, Ambassador Trillian, is Etendin. Etendin are Drens. They are silica-based evolutionary creatures. The body forms, not carbon-based like us. And they have a pale green skin. It's not wet. They're about 3 feet long from their cute snouts to the end of their adorable tails. They stand on strong legs that have an individual big toe and little toes like a human. And their hands have a thumb and 4 fingers like a human, but they are not human. Kind of look like a salamander, but they're not reptilian. They're not lizard-like. Their tail from the root to the tip is glowing like bright crystal opal in sunlight. Because this organic species on a planet on the other side of our galaxy evolved with the ability to defy gravity and fly through the air. 256 miles an hour. Eyelids, second eyelids closed down over their eyes. They have a little diaphragm in their noses, and they fly around. An organic creature. They come from planet Oceania, which is where Master Opellum comes from. We'll go there in our return. So the beings in this outer space journey, hovering around Trillian, who's serving as the central focal point of this journey to keep us focused and keep us from being distracted into phenomena, and then we would get nothing from the journey. So he helps to keep an energy coming around us, which forms a kind of an oval golden white sphere, like a ship, like the hull of a ship, around the entire circle of beings here. That's a little brighter golden white light than the hue that's in space, that's out there in space, all around planet Earth, around the moon, around the stars. You can look out in space and see billions of suns, stars, big blue, young, hot, white, blue-white giants, big yellow ones many times bigger than Earth, smaller yellow ones, little red dwarfs, great big giant red stars. And you can see them floating in this golden energy, this golden white energy, clear as day. You hear a sound around us, and then you hear the single high note of a flute playing a hauntingly beautiful melody. It sounds kind of like this. It sounds like female voices. It sounds like hue, 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 hue. It's a sound that comes from higher than the void, and it's drawing us to go home. It is not a physical energy. It's not nuclear or atomic. It is something we know in the core of our being, and we once knew it well. Above Et and Din, who are standing on their hind legs, wiggling their hands at us to show us they are like human hands, these two are considered to be very advanced master teachers, but they are not human. Above their forms, they're showing you is a spherical atma, quite bright, looks like we do. And above that is Sat Nam. It's like a being, a man standing there in space, high above everything. He has a white tunic dress on around his waist, little white dress that goes down to above his bare ankles. He's strongly built, like he's buff, has a strong chest, strong upper arms, looks to be about 36. Has 2 gold bracelets on his upper arms. Bronze skinned, gold eyes, not yellow. And he's just standing there observing. And above him is a golden white turning clockwise vortex that looks like an hourglass with a narrow middle. And around it is a blue-green liquid light like water revolving. And it is a doorway that's been created by these beings through which we'll travel to get beyond the void to Satnam's room and then go to the Hue Expansion Ray Academy and further upward all the way back to Source itself. Out in space in the circle where we are as beings are 12 30-foot in diameter blue-gray metallic spacecraft with clear blue domes and 3 semi-spheric pods in the bottom hull, a thin anti-gravitical light around them. We can see right through the halls. We're Atmas. And we see 3 couples standing beside a semicircular control console running the ship, and a couple in the back of a lounge sitting together shoulder to shoulder with their heads against each other, apparently asleep. And when each of you look left and right as you're standing around Turellian in this circle, as an Atma running this physical perfect form you have, you realize that the man and woman standing beside you are the couples that are asleep aboard these ships. They're out here with us. This is how they grow up. This is what they know. This rubs up on us. This oval of golden white light around us, like the transparent shell of a spaceship that's surrounding us that Turellian has created, begins to move upward until we follow Satnam up through and into the opening of this interdimensional doorway, this vortex. And as we move up into it and come to the narrow center of it, you see that the whole group of us appears like the size of a button to a dinner plate. It's quite large. And we see galaxies on levels passing below us as we move upward. And then we're shot up at tremendous speed, and we find ourselves at the other end of this vortex, floating in a pale blue luminous light everywhere. Nothing solid here. No planets, no objects. You don't see any beings. And it's a radiant pale blue light, and this is the void. The void is a pure energy form of the hue that serves as a barrier above the etheric plane and below the Atma plane, where Satnam comes from. And we're starting to look up. We're following Satnam. You see him receding ever upward until he disappears. And we shoot after him in this oval sphere of golden white light like a spaceship. The humming sound here of the hue is very loud in the void. A lot of people think it's the realm of the Supreme Being because it's all energy. So they just think, well, that must be God then. No. No. We're not anywhere near that. And as we move upward, you begin to see Satnam appear again. And it looks like he's beginning to land his body with this big, beautiful sphere, bigger than us. And he's landing his feet, his bare feet, on what looks like a diamond, glowing diamond sand. And as we approach this beach, you look to the left and right, and you can see this white, luminous beach stretches as far as you can see in each direction until way off into the distance, it begins to curve in, giving you the impression that this beach surrounds a monstrously large floating landmass of some kind. And you look down and find your bare feet wiggling your toes in this white, luminous sand. Satnam picks up a handful, to show us by direct experience what we need to do. You pick up a handful. You're the Atma running this physical form that looks perfect. It picks up a handful, and you can see the sand is made of little round polished diamonds. That's what you would think they are. And those little polished sands in your hand go into your palm, up your head, and into the white core of your being, making it brighter. This is a gift from Satnam because it helps you begin to remember what the Atma plane, the first place you embarked from before you entered into the lower worlds of time and space, what it's like, what it looks like, how to remember visualizing going back here. Because when you do have that awareness awakened in you, this is how we work with the omnipresent power. You visualize where you want to go and it takes you there. We are not the one power that manifests what we imagine. It is. It's unbiased, it's unprejudiced. So it behooves us to know how to master what we think and imagine, to only be that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life, or we create the opposites that trap us. It's not natural for us to create opposites that trap us. It's quite unnatural. People think in terms of this as being difficult to do, where it's actually much more difficult to remain trapped. It takes a constant focus on the negative and fear to keep us bound to earth. That's a lot of effort. Misdirected effort. Satnam is pointing to this jungle. The jungle trees lining the back of this beach are transparent. That means they're like fruit trees and banana trees and all kinds of trees, but there's energy moving up and down the trunks. These are very conscious, alive things. Hovering above these trees that come out of the branches are these birds. And when we hit Satnam's realm, they greet us. They're about a foot long. They look kind of like a blue jay with long sparrow-like split blue tails. And they have these rainbow-colored feathers, millions of colors, big bulbous blue eyes, and twin sets of bird wings, one above the other, like a dragonfly, one above and below. And they're hovering there, and they're singing. They're male and female. And they have vocal cords. There's an Atma hovering above each one of these birds. They're all singing out the hue in harmony on different levels, so that we can remember how this works. And then it's like a greeting. Hello, you're welcome. They go back about their business, go back in the trees. They're individual Atmas exploring what it is to run a bird body that is so advanced. It is far more advanced than any human in the universe, in the physical universe. Far beyond a photographic memory, telepathic, yes, vocal cords as well. Etta and Din have vocal cords. They can speak to you in English. More advanced beings know how to speak in every language there is. It's part of the omnipresent power itself. We can plug into it. I do not yet have that ability awoken in me on earth, but that will come about. When we're moving over the top of the trees, you can see Satnam has left the ground. He's a sphere of light running a body. And we're moving over the top of the trees. In the distance, you can see a diagonal snow-covered mountain range. It has blue stone and snow covering it. There's a vast countryside all around, and below us is a 100-foot in diameter white stone floor. There's a fountain coming out of that, 15 feet in diameter. Forgot to shut off some of your mics. I just did that. It's a white scalloped edges. It has a statue of Satnam standing in it. He's hovering beside it, pointing to it. This is a device, a doorway. His hands are at his sides in the statue, with the palms facing forward, down. there's a white golden shaft of light brighter than the atmosphere around us, which is cobalt blue, beautiful blue sky. There are no moons or planets or suns or stars here. Everything produces its own light, including each one of us. And we're looking down on this fountain. The energy is coming through his palms, pouring like liquid light into this bowl of this fountain, pouring down the sides, dropping in an evening glowing sheet, down into the ground where it disappears behind a circular stone white sitting bench that surrounds it. On this journey, we're going to go up this channel of light above the fountain and move up inside it. This is a continuous momentum. We're moving up inside this fountain of light around Turellian, still in a form surrounding him. Keep everything focused and organized. And we shoot up through it. We come out of another opening. And now we are in between what's called the sixth reality above the void and the fifth reality of Satnam's realm. This is a much brighter cobalt blue atmosphere surrounding what looks like in the distance a huge floating circular landmass. The only thing here. This is a specially created parallel dimension between the top of the Atma plane and the sixth plane. And there are many planes above this before we get to this source or prime creator. We're approaching this landmass like a spaceship journeying towards something floating in the middle of this huge cobalt blue atmosphere. If you look at the atmosphere, you can see little white particles of golden white light behind it, supporting it. That is the source power itself. In the center of this huge landmass are 6 snow-covered mountain peaks in a circle. We're looking down on it. And down in the basin between these 6 mountain peaks is a circular, donut-shaped, luminous white golden lake surrounding a white island. And in the island, at the edges of this island, is a transparent blue glass-like tower. It comes up very tall until it enters a flattened oval administration area and goes up to a minaret point. In the base of it, you can see, in the center of the island, a stone pillar, rectangular, vertical, blue stone like lapis lazuli laced with gold. There is a crystalline sphere-like, glass-like sphere hovering above it, not touching it. And there's a cobalt blue radiant star, very bright in the center of it. You can go into that star and go down into the hollowed-out interior of the Hue Expansionary Academy to meet with silent mentors, or you can go up it and go into higher realities. Everybody try to stay with this because this is for your benefit. You once knew this stuff. We're going to move up inside that tower into the flattened sphere, and what's inside it is another fountain. There are 3 concentric circles of white stone, and there are master teachers, men and women, standing on those circles observing us. These are people who teach in the Hue Expansionary Academy, where we are now. This place was brought into creation about 10 Earth years ago. And it was built by silent mentors. Silent mentors are the mechanics of creation. They are beings unknown to even the Galactic Alliance. They knew they existed, but they never met any. They have not had any association with individual Atmas like us. They maintain the creation, galaxies spinning on their axis, doorways between dimensions, moons and suns and stars, parallel dimensions, the void, the upper realities. They maintain this 24/7 under a top silent mentor. In this place, in the U Expansionary Academy, we can actually meet with them and have some association. They would not appear before you on Earth because it would destroy your physical body. They're too powerful. So they don't normally mix it up with us. You find yourself going up a shaft of white golden light coming down into this fountain made of a white stone. And then we're moving with Tyrellian up the shaft of this light. And as we speed upward, we're going far upward, and we come out of a much higher reality and out into an arena in an atmosphere that's orange and red and green and fiery, moving all around us. It's not frightening, but it's an energy that's what you would call the raw power of creation in a plane, a dimension. There's a being approaching us. He's a huge spherical. The colors are beyond description for a human. But it's much bigger than us. And this is a being called Agam Purusha. And this being manages like a transformer, the raw power from above, and transforms it, sends it down into lower planes. He is literally a being whose consciousness is behind the omnipresent power itself. When I first met this being, I asked to be his friend. Most people are terrorized by this being. Not that they can bring fear here, but they pale and quiver in front of this being. That is not what I did. This guy doesn't get many people asking to be his friend, so we're friends. It's good if you want to ask him to be a friend, because he'll probably say, yeah. He doesn't have anything to fear from us. In the distance, in this whirling energy that's constantly moving, you see what looks like a massive, gigantic silver fir tree. It has roots, massive, coming down into the light and disappearing below our feet. The top of this tree extends beyond vision. And he's pointing to it, giving us permission to go further. It's called the Agam Lok, or the Agam Plane, Agam Purusha. It is one of the higher worlds above the void, period. So we're moving through the branches of this tree as a group of beings, passing right through them. Remember, we're not physical bodies here. We can do this. It's easy. And as you pass an individual needle on one of these branches, you see a planet represented there. And at the beginning of the branches, whole galaxies. It's called the Tree of Life. And we move right into the trunk of this tree, and we're shot upward in the shaft of golden white light that's moving through its trunk. When we come out the other side of this one, we are coming into a realm called the Ocean of Sound and Light. This is the realm of Source, or Prime Creator. What we see is an even brighter cobalt blue atmosphere surrounding a single, looks like a galaxy, silvery white golden light. And these beings, like stars, floating around it in a circle. And in the center, a white island. And hovering above it, something that looks like us, like an atma, but much larger. Many more layers and teardrops to it. This is Prime Creator. It is not a being, man or woman, sitting on some throne. And we realize we look just like it, just on a smaller scale. And then we start to move between these massive beings. And as you pass between them, you realize part of you is still here, never left. These are realms beyond time and space. Time and space have no meaning here. That only begins in the etheric plane below the void, time and space. As we move between these beings, we suddenly find ourselves hovering above this luminous golden white sand, and there's this big presence hovering above it in the middle of this void, inside the center of this galaxy of beings surrounding it. And we start to move in between the individual teardrops of this being, The space is incredible. All of us in a group around Charlene are moving between these teardrops until we come to enter the white core itself. And then we recognize that the white core of what we are matches the white core of what it is. It's identical. This is something you guys knew how to do a very long time ago with quite good confidence. So this is rubbing off on you. If you don't know how to see what's here, believe me when I tell you, you can never get here. Ever. First, you need to know how to see some landmarks along the way. And beings help you do that. And then you can start to explore this stuff. Because once you can visualize what you're being given on this journey, you can go here. The omnipresent power itself will take you. And there's always masterful beings ready to go with you. What else has masterful beings got to do when they're free and God realized in eternity, other than help other younger beings or beings that have lost their way return one day? This is what our purpose is, really. Doesn't matter if you live on another planet as an extraterrestrial to Earth, because we all come from the same place. And inside this white light that's all around us, because that's all there is, you hear a voice. It has a baritone voice, but it has a feminine quality to it too. And it speaks to us and simply welcomes you home. It knows who you are. It knows you're here. And then it will tell each one of you something different, something that matters to you personally as a co-creative being with this source, something you always knew. Now we find ourselves hovering above the 6 mountain peaks, all the way back down above the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. We do this because we cannot stay in a realm so far removed from Earth for very long, or our physical bodies would perish. It's not necessary. But when you stick your big toe into an ocean like this, that rubs off on you. And now when we're hovering above these 6 mountain peaks, we're going to take you out and introduce you to what are called silent mentors. We're going to the northern part of this land. Remember, this luminous diamond-like beach surrounds the outer circumference of this massive land, floating in a cobalt blue atmosphere. Everything here creates an emanation of light. The trees, the flowers, the plants, the stones, the people, us. There's no need for suns and moons and stars and planets here. As we come across this, we look like we can see that out of the base of these 6 mountain peaks are horseshoe-shaped tunnels cut into the base of these mountains. And a white road as straight as glass, straight as an arrow, runs out to the beach like spokes of a bicycle tire in every direction. And along each of these roadways are these clearings with individual training facilities in them. We'll go to those later, but where we're going right now is to the northern shore of this landmass. And out in this cobalt blue atmosphere, surrounding this entire landmass, are 12 clear domes in the center of a jungle. And these are silent mentor teaching facilities. Try to stay with this. This is stuff that normally takes some preparation to deal with it. Give yourself the credit. I can't make you do anything. And we're suddenly inside this dome, which is floating offshore of this landmass. There are 12 of them in a circle. There are 3 golden-sided, 4-sided pyramids with quartz caps in the back third of the inside of these domes. There's a fountain in the dome. It has a blue, green, golden, white light coming up out of it, falling back over the edges and dropping through the floor. There are 12 trees around this fountain, and a crystal sphere with a blue star in it hovering above it. Standing atop these 12 trees that look like massive weeping willow trees with broad, spoon-shaped glowing leaves are standing 12 beings, alternating male and female, with a single different colored gown on, different colored skin, all have long hair to their shoulders. And when you look at their facial features, you cannot see any detail. It's just a white light. But in that white light, when you look into their eyes, you see levels upon levels of galaxies in different dimensions, because that's how they think. And above, hovering above this form they're showing you, is a spherical atma 4 times larger than us, twice as many teardrop layers. This is who they are. These are the mechanics of creation. These are the beings who hold together creation and run it. This is the one place we can go to meet with them. So we find ourselves standing in a circle, or hovering in a circle around Turellian, who's standing in the middle of this beam of this fountain, between us and the silent mentors. And there's an energy coming from the sphere above them, through their face, through us, to Turellian, up that shaft of light, and it's moving both directions. So this is a way, silent mentors have a way of interacting with us. The purpose for these domes, which came into creation this last year up there, is so that beings like us going up there can have some association with them. What's being developed here is a prototype of being. Part silent mentor, which have absolute unlimited freedom in creation. They can be anywhere, in any form, anywhere in the multidimensional universe, instantly, and carry out a mission. They have no limits on them whatsoever. And then there's master teachers like Opelum and Ramu and Ambassador Turellian, Etta and Din and others. So it is a way that master teachers, what you would call them, silent mentors, have a way of mixing it up through us. I have no idea what it is that's being done by silent mentors, because they're so subtle. But something really good is coming from this. So I was more or less guided to take you here, because this kind of thing rubs off on us. This is not something you knew about in the beginning. This is not something that ever existed prior to very recently. We find ourselves re-entering the Hue Expansion Ray Administration Tower, that blue glass tower, coming out of the Weil Island in the basin below the 6 mountain peaks. And we're moving right into the light going to this fountain and down the shaft of this tower, into the blue star and that crystal sphere hovering above that blue vertical pedestal. And then we suddenly find ourselves in the Milky Way galaxy, all the way back down the physical universe, hovering above a mostly water-covered world. It's quite large. It is beautiful blue-green ocean glowing, more blue than green really, and 3 planets the size of Earth circling it at different distances. This is Oceania. It is located on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, in the 3rd higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. In the distance you can see a trinary sun system these planets revolve around. Big blue white hot young star, big yellow one slightly smaller, another one further out, and these planets are orbiting it. There's no polar ice caps on these worlds. There are domed cities. This is Oceanian technology, these domes covering cities. Master Opelum, who comes from this planet, as do Etta and Din, provided this technology to the Galactic Alliance when Master Opelum sponsored the beginning of it at the encouragement of Ambassador Turellian. These are things on different levels that make up the multidimensional creation. They're not new to you. But I can tell you, none of you really have been going to such realms for probably billions of years. So we got to start that process by getting you above the void and getting you familiar with what certain things look like. Otherwise, you won't know how to ask the hue to take you there. And without the visual part of it, you won't go anywhere. It is one of the ways the One Power works with us. Master Opelum, who is still in the circle around Trillian, is now instructing us to move down inside the atmosphere of this planet. It takes a little discipline to go on such a journey. Give yourself the credit that you can do it. Because you can. This is not stuff that's taught to anybody on Earth. The Galactic Alliance personnel are just becoming familiar. As advanced and paradisical as their worlds are, they're just becoming familiar with what exists above the void. They're returning with us on these journeys. This is important. You are contributing to this. We find ourselves standing on a golden sand that's glowing. In the distance is a dome covering 3 pyramids, beautiful glowing jungle around it. The ocean that's around it is a blue greenish water glowing a foot above the calm ocean waves. There are transport tubes that come round and transparent that come out of the base of that dome city. And it goes down the beach and down into the ocean. It goes to the bottom of the Oceanian Ocean to connect with domes that have been created on the bottom of the Oceanian Ocean floor. Etendin, who can fly in an anti-gravitic manner, have bodies here. But they're showing you a body that looks like their physical body, and they're taking us down one of these transparent tubes. Transport cars move on them that are double terminated, like a double terminated quartz crystal. And Oceanians, men and women, right inside them. They are vacuums that they're like anti-gravitic propelled transporters in the tubes. This is Oceanian technology. Most of the Galactic Alliance has this technology. When we come down near the bottom of it, you see a tube enters the base of one of these domes. The whole ocean floor is lit up. They're miles across and half a mile high, these domes. And their tubes go off in different directions. You can see they connect to other dome cities along the Oceanian floor. Remember, Oceania is mostly water covered. Opelum is now standing by the dome, showing you his open 5 fingers. There are webs between his fingers. He lifts his neck. There are little gill slits under his neck. You wouldn't notice them otherwise. Oceanians can breathe underwater or on land. We're so genetically close to them we could mate with them. Not that they would want to, but it's true in galactic history. Many races come from the work the Say race did, like Ambassador Trillian, billions of years ago, to create these higher genetic forms that Atlas could run. In the next instant, we find ourselves hovering around Trillian in space by planet Earth, the one you're familiar with. When you look at Earth, it changes. It becomes a different Earth. It has a huge ocean around it, no polar ice caps. There's a big continent from the left to the right equator. And it's in the 3rd higher parallel dimension of the universe. Something you all once knew how to circumnavigate. In other lives, much more evolved than the ones you have now. There's a green glowing beach, half moon shaped, down at the bottom of this continent, third of the way up from the South Pole. And we look down, you find your feet wiggling your toes in this glowing emerald green sand. Offshore is a blue-green luminous ocean, Turlian standing up to his knees in it. Still got his two thumbs up with this brighter golden hue around them to keep us focused. And this green sand, it's those little round polished emerald crystals. These are devices. Move up your feet, out the top of your head and into the white core of your being, hovering above the form you have here. And goes out to the green layer of the Atma you are. Turning on some of those teardrops, these higher faculties. Now this has to do with remembering lives you've lived out amongst the Galactic Alliance, in other dimensions, in the lower worlds, that you've forgotten a long time ago, particularly lifetimes that are be most beneficial for you to remember now. And then you find yourself around Turlian in space, and Earth looks the same. Polar ice caps, barren moon. And then you're hovering near the ceiling where you live. And the man and woman is still standing beside you, keeping your primary implant turned off, unless you've chosen to look into fear of the present future, in which case it can turn on and affect you. But they generally keep it off for your benefit, for the journey. When you're up near the ceiling looking down on your body, they're still hovering beside you. The energy coming through you from where we've been is moving through your form, out into the electromagnetic field called the aura, passing through it for your benefit, and continuing on into the earth, the bottom of the oceans. There are two pyramids. They are not made of physical matter, but they are turned on. Classified people know they're there, but can't do anything with them one way or another. They're massive. There's a fountain in them. They're pulsing energy waves out through the sides of the pyramid. They connect to one in a hollowed out interior of a mountain in the Himalayas. And then they're beamed to a particular pyramid that is quite large, stationed between two stable asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of what was a planet between Mars and Jupiter. They're classified people, the Space Force, that know it's there. They can't do anything with it. And then it's connected to the source of the galaxy, the galactic core itself, which isn't a black hole. It's a white golden shaft of light. It's an interdimensional portal. And it goes up that portal and moves through us continuously and never stops. It goes back to source where we came from. So it's moving through us for our benefit, and then moving onward for the benefit of others. This becomes our nature. Always was. On other journeys, we can go to other planets other than Oceania. We don't have to go to Source. We can go to the U Expansion Ray Academy and explore a particular tower. Looks like a grain silo, ivory colored, and you go through a test where you hold up a type of sword. It's a two-edged sword, sword of Source. And when you do that correctly, it's merged into the center of your being, giving us the wisdom not to be trapped again. So we can do that another time too. When you're back here on Earth, remember that this is flowing through you. And so when you open your eyes here, see how much of this journey you can remember. Probably you won't remember a lot of it, but when you play back the recording later, you'll see how much went on during the journey. There's a few new people here, Will and Dominique. So this journey was designed around them as well. So that, because people that have gone on these journeys quite a bit have a grasp of things a little bit more solidly, as this is just done out of respect. Now, if you turn on your mics, we can all chat a bit. where the journey's come to a conclusion. A very long one, but it needed to be because of the nature of all the people involved here, meaning all of you. You helped co-create this journey. Hi, Marshall.
Hello.
And Lee is there. Susan may be gone. Margaret's there. Dominique, hi.
Hi.
I noticed you were struggling a little bit to keep your eyes closed through some parts of the journey. Perfectly natural. Don't give it another thought. It happens to everyone. Yeah, you know, you get doubts, you get this, you wonder about that, and then you get grounded back to earth, and then you go back out. It's perfectly normal and natural to do this. You're going to find, though, after this journey, that your intelligence, your IQ has gone up in the next few days. Pay attention when you go to a restaurant, when you go out somewhere. And you look at people and you realize just how asleep they are. The channel of the hue that you were introduced to, you're plugged into in source, moves through you now. So it'll come through you. You don't even have to be worried about what it does with other people. That's too big for us to carry. But it will come through the state of consciousness you have now for the benefit of others. Do things you don't even know it's doing, simply because you're willing to work with it that way. Any questions about this particular journey? Okay. Well, you can always write to me if you have them, or we can get on Zoom. You know, it doesn't have to cost anything, and just chat, whatever. But give it a couple of days, and I will send you all a link, an invitation link, to go to my Dropbox account and download this journey. You can play it back in the privacy of your sanctity of your own home. When you go on it a second time, make it fun. I mean, get a cup of tea. Go out to a restaurant, turn off the recording, play it a third of the way through, come back with a notepad, take notes, have fun with it. Because you're going to notice a lot went on you aren't aware of that went on right now. But when you go back on it, it's going to be much more easy for you to understand it, to comprehend it, because you have to bring that kind of journey back to the consciousness of the personality and brain and body you raised here that has none of this training. And you have to kind of let it seep in so that your physical form on earth can become brighter and more intelligent. And that's the way it really works. You have to give it to your form here. You have to bring enlightenment to your body form on earth. But the enlightenment takes place as the Atma. And then it can be moved through the form you have here. Okay, you sure you don't have any questions? Because it's the time to ask it. I'll bring the recording to a stop.